flat, and then I would watch Sports Center at 6 p.m. So those are definitely my idols growing up. And I said, wow, I love their career. They're so inspirational and they're so knowledgeable and personable at the same time. So I take a lot to that because I feel like you have to be the same person on camera and then off camera. You can't just all of a sudden switch off and just be a jerk out of nowhere.
Hmm. So take me back to your first show you done and your first podcast or whatever you did to get your career going. So take me back to the first time and how were you nervous or were you confident going into your first show?
For sure. I was definitely nervous because I saw a meme the other day and the meme said, if 100 people listen, that's a classroom. And I forget the two in the middle, but then it ended up with, if there's 1,000 people listening, that's a conference. So I said, wow, like I feel like sometimes we're so focused on who's watching and oh man, it's only got 10 views, but that's still 10 people that were listening to you and paying attention to you. So I would say when I ventured into the podcast world, it was with my former co-host. She's amazing. She just, I think, just decided to not work in sports, and she's doing amazing things outside of the industry. And that was my first real taste of podcasting. And I remember being nervous. I said, "Damn, am I gonna mess up? Am I going to curse by mistake?" I cursed a lot. It's a problem. So we would have to make sure to produce the show like the week before. We would say, all right, this was trending. Let's talk about this topic. All right, you got college football. Cool. I got the NFL. But now that my show, like I was telling you off camera, my show is going to launch in a couple of weeks. And I'm really excited. One of my best friends is working on the graphic for me. I did the bio for it. So I'm just like, all right, let's just make sure to try to make it as personable as possible, even though there's not much to talk about sports, but I want to be able to relate to everybody. Whereas talking about random topics from how do you cut people from your wedding guest list, which is something I had to do. So, and then talking about like Kobe's legacy in the same podcast.
So congrats on that new show that's coming up soon. And what?
Of course, thank you.
Yeah. So when is your planning to start that? And is it going to be? Are you going to do interviews on Zoom, Skype, or Instagram Live, or is it in studio too?
Well, I actually haven't even figured that out because it is hard to kind of get people to with availability and whatnot. But I feel like you send an email, someone sees it, you get a response, at least someone acknowledged it. It is what it is. But it's going to be through this network called BS3 Radio, and it's a great group of guys that I've met through the world of Instagram and Twitter. And the leader and the owner of it, he mentioned to me back about March, and I said, yeah, I'm down. It was set to start in April, but with COVID and everything kind of at a standstill, I said, let me hold off. But seeing how there's so many more topics that you could just integrate together in a podcast, why not launch it and still talk about sports, but in a different light? But it'll be through, most likely like Spotify, iTunes of the world. I know not on SoundCloud for sure. But I am excited to explore like things like this as what you're doing, because I think it's exciting to be able to use these tools and, hey, here's a Zoom link. And it's so simple. You just have to click on it and you're in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, like my technique is, right now I'm just hustling, taking advantage of these players, former players. And actually, all I do is either send them messages on Twitter or Instagram. I have people reaching out to me now too, and to set up interviews, and it's all about the content at the end of the day. I agree. So it's not about the views or likes, it's about what you put out. And if people want, I agree. Yeah. But my next question here, so obviously that the BS3 radio, so that's a segue to the next question, where how is it like working with Courtney? Actually, Kelsey Nelson, one of the best in my opinion. She's one of the best reporters out there. Kelsey, Courtney, Adams, you name it. The crew, the background crew, everything that works for BS3 Radio. What's it like working with them?
Well, honestly, there's so much support there. It's a group chat, so everyone is able to chime in, support one another. And I think that's what we need, because if we don't really support one another, we're not going to be able to elevate ourselves. And it's better to not think of each other as a competition, like, oh man, he got LeBron on his show. Man, why couldn't I do that too? Like, no, you should be happy. Like, wow, LeBron made time for your show as opposed to something that's on SportsCenter at 6 o'clock. Like, that's to me is even more amazing. So that's something that I think that comes with time and age, that you realize that you don't look at your peers as competition anymore. You just see them as colleagues, and you're happy that they're elevating themselves and they're able to get ahead in their careers, because it's eventually what we're all trying to do, you know?
Hmm.
Mm. But I love it. They're very motivational. They contribute great ideas, like what you should be doing, we should be working on, and I love it. I think that we need more of that, and I know that we say that we need more of that, but no one really practices what they preach. So that's the problem too.
Hmm. So have you seeked any advice from Kelsey Nelson when you start before you started your career, and what is she like as a person? And I had her on my show recently, like a few months
Nice.
ago. Yeah, I interviewed her, and she's such an inspiring lady. So,
Uh-huh.
so for you, what kind of advice did you seek from her?
Well, from Kelsey, I believe I started first in my field, or maybe like we're toe to toe. I think we're right, like maybe not too far along from each other.
Mhm.
We share each other's stuff. I haven't really asked for advice from her, so to speak. We kind of just like, hey, how's it going? You know, just check in here and there. But I'm seeing what she's doing down in the DC area, and it's just amazing. I love it because not too many are doing what she's doing, and that's even better for her because she's a one of a kind. So I love that. She's standing out on her own, and she's just bringing topics that people aren't doing, and I think it's great.
Right.
Personable, like you said, like she has a great personality. She's very sweet. She's down to earth. Like we don't really get a lot of genuine people these
Yeah.
days.
And the guests she'd be having on is lit and awesome. She gets a pretty good, a big time guest on her show too, and she's doing a great job with her podcast. Um, so obviously, I was on Courtney's show recently on his
Oh
podcast.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how you found me too. I think after the show, yeah, I think you found me from there. Yeah, so I was on Courtney's podcast, and he does a great job too. So what's it like seeing him having success with his podcast?
It's going really good. I love to talk boxing with him a lot, and he has such a great voice too. It's funny because seeing his growth. We've been connecting, I think, for about 3 years now. And I'm sorry, I had a little bit of a pause. I asked my fiance if he could put the volume down in the living room, so
Oh.
I wanted to interrupt recording over here. So I'm like, can you put the volume down? So sorry if I looked like I was for a second. But Courtney's great. He's been telling me for a while about the podcast. He's like, hey, I see what you're doing with your co-host. You guys are doing great. And then when I told him that I was thinking about doing my own solo stuff, he said, I think you could do it. Like, this is great. Just be mindful about the time, because we're competing with attention spans at the same time. So people can go on for hours, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be catered to the audience. So that's something else we all have to keep in mind. So he's been giving me a lot of great advice. He brings good stuff to his show. I love listening to it because he really gives me a perspective that I never thought about.
Yeah. So for you, what was your favorite team? What are your favorite teams growing up?
Yeah. So my favorite teams growing up, I'm a terrible Mets fan. It's a problem, and
Let's go
it's
Yankees.
probably where I have anger issues from, and it's because of the team.
I'm a Yankee fan.
Oh, at least you see, at least you've won a ring in your lifetime. I haven't been able to be that lucky. Um, I'm a Spurs fan, thank God. But I cover the Knicks, so that's why people think I'm a Knicks fan. So that's offensive to me and my soul. But you know what? Got to support the home team. If the Knicks end up going to the finals versus a random team, if it's not the Spurs, then I'm gonna hope for the Knicks to win. I'm trying to get more into hockey, but I do want to say I identify as a Rangers fan. I can't say I go to the Islanders just because of the same colors as the Mets. And of course, New York Giants all day.
I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. And,
I apologize for my memes in advance.
and I'm a New York Knicks fan, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I like so you cover the Knicks.
Yeah.
So what do you do for them? Just like talk about like on your podcast or something, or you have a
Well, most likely that's what it'll lead into whenever the season starts. I'll definitely chime in some Knicks stuff as well in there. But I used to work for a site by the name of Black Sports Online, and that's where I kind of got my start with more credentials and more experience, and kind of just launched in the water, not knowing what to do. And this is where what I was saying earlier, that sometimes we're our own worst enemy. Like it wouldn't have helped, it wouldn't have hurt rather to have asked for help, like, hey, how do I get to the court, as opposed to trying to figure it out on your own. And I think that's something that younger generations need to know, that it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to ask for directions. And that's something that I figured out on my own, but I should have asked, like, hey, how can I get to the court? Now I'm helping other people out. I do a lot of pre-game stuff, post-game stuff. I write about them, but now I'm working for a site called Quick Out the Blocks, and it's an amazing website. We're trying to put out really good field stories about sports, and bring what people actually want to read, because I feel like there's too much clickbait out there. Why not put some meaningful stories out there on the internet and elevate the sport, elevate the players as well?
Yeah, that's an awesome thing you're doing right now. And so I want to get to your Spurs here real quick. Obviously, Greg Popovich is still the head coach, but I really want to see Becky Hammon get her chance to be the first women's coach in the NBA, and I feel like she deserves it. And she was a hell of a player, and she's a great assistant coach for the Spurs. And at some point, do you see that happening once Greg Popovich leaves?
You know what? I think she should get a chance, like you're saying. I do see it happening, and I think she's so talented. She brings so much to the team, and I think the league is ready. They're a very progressive league. You see as the players get supported for their protesting, which I think is amazing. And they're people too. They shouldn't just be shutting up and dribbling.
Right.
But I feel like now with the acceptance more, I think she'll get an opportunity in the NBA.
Yeah, I really, because she is
she's inspirational. I love it. Yeah, and she's a badass. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah. Actually, I'm trying to get her on my show too, so hopefully.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
So I want to get, obviously, what do you think of the team overall? And obviously they always compete, but this year it seems like they're up and down.
Yeah, because of this new structure. I mean, if they end up playing, considering how the COVID cases are going on in Florida, if they got lucky that they're even one of the 12 teams selected, and their record was almost going to be shattered because they've been making the playoffs for, I think they were holding it down for 20 years or something like that, is what I read.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and then this is the year that they would have been out and they would have broken that record for them. So they got real lucky that they barely made it. But I did catch some Spurs game in the season because I was curious. I also got the NBA package.
Right.
I was like, oh, I can watch them. Cool, let's put it on. And I would just see a lot of sloppiness, and the team chemistry just wasn't there as it was before. But I think that's how teams are, newcomers, rookies. Why not? We all have to learn somewhere. I think they're just exposed to see how teams should be as well. You're not going to expect perfection year in and year out. Like, it's normal to kind of fall off.
Yeah, I mean, the Spurs have young talent. I really like their talent and the way they're building. And actually, what's his name? Patty Mills. He's like he's obviously he's a veteran, but I consider him like a weapon for a team all teams would like to have him as on their team This guy can start or play on the bench. He can do multiple things. Patty Mills. This guy is a stud, in my opinion.
He is. He's a secret weapon, like you said. A lot of teams would love to have him on.
Yeah. So now I want to talk about the WNBA, and obviously Renee Montgomery. I want to talk about her. Kudos to her for making a stand and opting out and focusing on this social injustice. And we're really proud of her because I had the opportunity to interview her last month on Skype. So I reached out to her saying, good job. And she said, thank you. And I told her, keep up the great work. You're such an inspiration, and you got to do what's best for you. And that's what she's doing. And what are your thoughts on that, especially her being like the face of the franchise? And what are your thoughts on this WNBA season? Only 22 games, but I feel like that so it's a good thing for the ratings. But what are your thoughts first on Renee Montgomery?
Yeah, well, I'm right there with you, and I forgot to include the Liberty earlier as one of my favorite teams. It took me a while to get into the WNBA for sure. I covered the Liberty for about 4 seasons, and that's what kind of got me into exposing myself to the league and seeing how fun it is. And it was probably an ignorant thought for sure to say, oh, nobody cares, but you shouldn't be saying that, because like this is something that's elevating you as women, elevating the league, inspiring little girls everywhere. And nowadays we're seeing more with the number one pick was Sabrina. I forget her last name.
Oh, I can't. I don't want to get that wrong, so I don't know.
Damn, is it Oniescu or something?
Lanescu or something?
Yeah. But I love the fact that, she's bringing a great name to the brand. Other players or other male athletes are also watching along, trying to elevate the sport. So I definitely don't want to forget, I'm also a Liberty fan. But to come back to your first question, right there with you, I agree. I think it's so inspirational. She's taking a stand. And I think that's something else that we need to see more of, because just because they're getting X amount of money more than a lot of people, like, why should they not voice their opinions?
Mm.
I think that's such an ignorant thought that people say, oh, they get paid thousands of dollars in comparison to all of us. They shouldn't have why don't they just play? No, it's politics are relevant everywhere.
Yeah. So, So my next question here: what do you think of this 22 game format for the WNBA?
Yeah, I think it's good. It's at least something for the fans. We can't let the sport die out. Because I can only imagine the colossal loss for both leagues and even other leagues as well if there is no play. I think fans will be tuning in for sure, and they'll just continue to elevate them. The draft had the biggest numbers that they've ever had this year, which I love seeing it. Um, and it was just so, it's just an amazing job despite it being virtual. They did the best they could, and look, it paid off.
Did you follow the draft at all?
I did, yeah.
So, by the way, Liberty's got a good one in Sabrina, but
Yes.
but I want to get your thoughts. Actually, I spoke to 3 people from the Atlanta Dream. Renee Montgomery, obviously, and I spoke to the strength and conditioning coach on my show, and I also spoke to the head coach, Nikki Collin.
Yeah.
So I talked to her, and what are your thoughts on their draft pick, Kennedy Carter? Because she's getting a lot of attention right now, and I feel like she can be a star.
I definitely agree with you. And that's what everyone's saying. Like, she definitely is going to be a star. She has a good head on her shoulders, great discipline. And I'm just looking forward to them returning to play at the end of the day. And I think that's all of us. Like, we want to return to normalcy so bad, but we just have to make sure to be safe with it at the same time.
Right. So now, so now it looks like that baseball might be coming back soon. They're doing another vote today at 5 p.m. Eastern for the players. Yesterday was the owners. So I guess the players they're saying they're expected to accept the 60-game season, which will start July 24th. But I already people are saying that everybody's confirming on Twitter that they're going to accept it. But do you think there's a chance that they won't accept it, or do you think it will go through?
The way the Players Association is working, I want to say I wouldn't be surprised if they vote no.
Hmm.
I'm all for unions. I'm in a union family, myself, and I understand where they're coming from. And this goes back to my point of earlier of people saying, "Oh, they're only fighting for a couple $1 million." No, it's still the principle. You guys agreed back on something in March. Honor that same agreement, and then that's the way it works. That's how unions are. That's how police unions are, teachers unions, carpenter unions, all of them. So I think that that's the part that people forget. Just because you're making X amount of money doesn't mean that you shouldn't be paying it back to you, But I wouldn't be surprised if they vote no. The way that things are looking like for the past couple of weeks, actually the entire month, it's been so much drama from the alerts that the Player Association posts on Twitter, owners, from what Rubber Manfred keeps saying. So I don't think they're on the same page at all, but I think that the one thing that they all could agree on is that they do want to play, but just honor their previous payments. That's just what it is.
Yeah, I mean that's the one thing I don't like about social media, where people start confirming that they're going to accept it before the voting starts, and all these MLB insiders. Actually, the best ones for me, the only reporters I trust in baseball are Jeff Passan, Ken Rosenthal, all these.
Yeah, people. Jeff is a good one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm hoping they agree to this, because we really want baseball back, especially for the Yankees. I'm really looking forward to see Garrett Cole pitch in pinstripe this year, and I'm hoping it comes to fruition today, and we can just focus on them coming back.
I'm sorry, Nathan. Give me 1 second. I had my just went out of nowhere.
Oh.
That's weird. Okay, here I am again. I don't know what's been going on with Zoom, but I'm so sorry to have cut it off.
Oh, that's okay.
First time it happens.
Yeah. So no, hopefully they come to fruition today after the voting and 60 games. Everybody, I don't know. Everybody's saying that 60 games could be tainted. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I hope that it's not going to be tainted, but to be honest with you, considering how things are going, it would.
Uh-oh. So I'm just waiting on. Oh, yeah. Can you
Oh
hear
my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was like, what
me? That's all right. No,
oh my god, I'm so sorry. It literally was just like black screen. I said, okay, just relax, text him, handle it.
it's okay. No, I kept the recording because I can just edit this afterwards. It's fine.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, sorry. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay. We were talking about MLB.
Yeah.
Do you want to start the question again so you could edit that part?
Yeah. So the question was, obviously the 60 games. The people are saying that it's tainted. So what are your thoughts on that? And do you think that's tainted or?
I think so. I feel like we could have gotten 72 games for sure, even the 80 games that they were thinking about. Um, I think I'm just such a huge baseball fan, and I just want the game. I just want it to play. At the end of the day, I just want them to come back. And it's been such a journey to listen to how much the players are complaining, talking about the prices of their the salary, making sure that they don't get injured. Is it even worth it for them to return? But I think that at the end of the day, you know what? Let's just try to figure it out. But I am for the unions. I just hope that they do get what they deserve. They need to make sure that they get their salaries.
Right. So for you, how did you become a Mets fan, and what do you think of their team overall?
Well, interesting story. I'm a Mets fan because of my older brother. He was lucky enough to see them alive in '86. My brother is 7.5 years older than me, so he would watch me and my younger brother. So he would just park us right there, and we would have to watch the games with him. So I guess that's where I took a liking to the Mets. My younger brother was smarter, and he decided to not root for the Mets. Aside from us, that we're still stuck in this demise. But what I think of the team, I think last year they almost had a really good run. They had me believing again in August. And for a second, I thought that they were actually going to go for it. But then, had they won certain games back in June, July, they would have been a lot better position in August. Sorry. But I'm just hopeful. You know, Pete Alonso winning the oh my God, I can't remember. The Rookie of the Year stuff.
Oh, Rookie of the Year.
Home run, yeah. So I love that. And I think it brought good energy to the team, good positivities, and let's just keep it going. But I think after this year, it's a weird vibe, you know?
Yeah. So obviously I told you I'm a Yankee fan, and obviously you guys have one of the best pitchers in the National League in DeGrom, and now we have one of the best pitchers in the AL of Garrett Cole. So it would be fun for us to come, especially in the New York area. People are going to be
in the Subway Series.
Yeah, people are comparing Garrett Cole and DeGrom now in New York. So what do you so what do you expect when hopefully the Yankees have the Mets on the schedule this year? I don't know what they're going to do with the scheduling, but but if they do have the Mets, and imagine the one of the days that Garrett Cole faces DeGrom, what's that going to be like? The atmosphere. Obviously, I don't know if fans are allowed to be at that time, but do you think fans? First of all, I should have brought this question up before this. Yeah. Do you think the fans would be allowed to come in the stands when the season starts?
I don't think so. I think that considering that we living in such a weird stage right now in our lives that, you know, we're cautious when we're even walking down the street next to people. Like you'd rather just stop, let them pass, and then you go. And I think that here on out, this is definitely going to teach us a big lessons about cleanliness. And I don't know if they would want a lot of people in the stands, considering what these stadiums hold about 50,000 people at a time. Imagine 50,000 sold out, plus the concession stand workers, plus the teams, plus everyone that works for the teams. You're very well expecting about 100,000 people, for example, for like a Subway Series game. I'm exaggerating it, but like thinking about all the personnel, it could be, if anything, more like 70, not 100K. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're too scared of the contamination, which I would be too. I don't know how you feel about it, but you know, we're still weary about where we're going to be in life. And even 6 months from now, when I keep reading about countries like Iceland that completely got rid of the virus, but they don't have as a dense population as we do. I think in Iceland, I think that they have no more than 300,000 people that live on the island. Well, we have 300,000 people in one area.
Yeah. Yeah. So now let me ask you this: if they allow fans in the middle of the season, what do you think the atmosphere would be like when, like I brought up a scenario where if the Mets play the Yankees and then they have Cole facing DeGrom, what's the atmosphere will be like?
Well, I'm sure you saw the video of him. He was throwing a few pitches a couple days ago at Yankee Stadium, and he did really good numbers. And I love that. So it shows me that one, he's obviously still trying to stay conditioned. still putting in that practice every single day, and that he's in the area. It's a gorgeous weather outside. I'm sure that they're going to be around. And if they would allow fans in, oh man, that would be amazing. It would just feel like a return to like the golden era of baseball where we actually had really good pitchers duels.
Yeah.
Opposed to showing up just to see home runs. But to see them two go toe to toe, it would be great. The girls are my favorites. He's such a humble guy, as well as Garrett Cole, I'm sure he is. But I think that this is a really good treat for the fans.
Yeah. So you're ready for this? I do this rapid fire segment with all my guests that come on the show. So you ready for this?
Of course.
Kawhi Leonard's laugh or Kevin Hart's laugh?
Kawhi Leonard. He's my favorite. He's one of my favorites. And former Spurs.
Favorite food?
It's a Dominican plate, and it's called mondongo, and I believe in English it's tripe.
Oh, okay.
My favorite dish of all time. It's, oh my God, with potatoes and rice. Oh, it's so good. My favorite dish.
Do you think Steph Curry can be, not Steph Curry, do you think Sabrina can be just like Steph Curry in the WNBA?
100%.
So obviously the Knicks are looking for a new head coach, and
Aren't they always?
Yeah, they got permission to interview Jason Kidd, and I don't know, what's your thoughts on that? If you heard it on Twitter yesterday, so Mark Stein.
I did.
Yeah, so what do you think of that idea where, obviously they can interview whatever they want, but do you think he'll fit this as a coach there in New York?
I want to say, considering the brief experience he has with the Bucks as a head coach, I don't know if he's ready for head coaching, to be honest with you. I want to say that he should test the waters and still stay within assistant and kind of stay with a good team like the Lakers. So then he could bring like whatever knowledge he comes wherever the hell he goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's great that they're getting a good broad amount of interviewers. Like they're also saying that Mike Brown now, they're going to try to interview him. They interviewed the former Bulls head coach. I forgot his name.
Oh, Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah. And obviously Kenny Atkinson as well. They've been doing nothing but interviewing, and I think that's great. And I think they're probably going to hold off till July to make any announcements.
Right. What new things are you learning during this quarantine?
What have I learned during this quarantine? To have a lot more patience than I already do. To realize that certain things are out of your control. And there's no need for you to drown in a glass of water over things that, again, you can't control. So I feel like everyone's mental health has been tested a lot. I don't know if you watched the show, but there's this writer from the show This Is Us that unfortunately she committed suicide, and it's because she couldn't deal with the being locked in. So we don't really know what it's like to be in the brain of a person who's even thinking or contemplating suicide. Can do is just empathize, and instead of pointing a finger or calling her a coward, you have to think about the motives. So I think that this time has been really tough on a lot of people, considering you have to stay indoors, you can't even go outside to your local 7-Eleven, and it's okay to go out and reach for therapy and talk to your friends, talk to family members, and if they're willing to listen, DM somebody. You never know, someone is always out there willing to listen to you and help you out.
Favorite music artist?
Favorite music artist? Damn, I have a whole bunch, but from different genres. My favorite rapper is Nas all day. So Nas over JC, in my opinion. For female vocalists, I would say Alicia Keys for sure. Damn, you kind of put me on the spot. Well, this is why it's called Rapid Fire. I'm just like, who is it? But I think those are the two that right now I could think off the top of my head.
So you spoke on boxing. So who do you like? Who's your favorite boxer, and who do you think is the best in the game right now?
Oh, damn, that's a good question. One of my favorites definitely has to be Daniel Jacobs. I love his story. He's so inspirational. He's so down to earth. And, he overcame a lot. And he's a local Brooklyn kid. Got to support someone from your hometown. And also Chris Algieri, they work together. I love seeing how they're just so humble, so available, so ready and willing to talk to whoever obviously is not going to be disrespectful towards them. I also love Canelo. He's really sweet despite what everyone puts out there on the internet. When I was working at the Zone, I had a chance to interact with him a couple times, and it was great to kind of see how what people paint versus what you see face to face. Like those two are not the same thing at all. And I would say throwback boxer. I mean, you can't have this conversation not mention Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
I think that everything he stood for, and it's so relevant. It's evergreen stuff. The stuff that's still trending today, like regarding the protests, Black Lives Matter. It's stuff that's still very much relevant and is never going to die because we're always going to be constantly having this fight for race. And it's unfortunate that in this country, that's like the number one topic that's still a problem. And of course, Mike Tyson. I love his attitude.
He speaking of Mike Tyson, you should see how hard he's working on his in my opinion, he can come back and box. He's working hard. He is. Have you seen his workouts? It's crazy.
I have, and I also forgot to mention. I love Heather Hardy as well. She's
amazing.
Yeah, Heather Hardy is amazing. She's funny as hell, and she's another one that when I worked at the Zone, so easy to talk to, so available, and they're just ready to just be there and promote their brand as well as promote boxing, especially female boxing.
Yeah.
But to get back to your question about Mike Tyson, it's funny. I saw a before and after picture. So someone shared a photo of him from like his 40s to now. It's crazy to see how conditioned, how seriously he took his health. And that's something that it inspires me as a 31-year-old. And I'm like, all right, I got to step up my game because he looks better than me right now.
But I had the opportunity to interview two boxers on my show. Steven Soko Nelson? He's a like a heavy.
Who's his promoter, if you know?
I don't know promoter, but he's a I think heavyweight champion or some kind of but he boxes. And then I also had Raquel Miller.
I've heard him. Yeah.
Her on. She's amazing. She's such an inspiration. And so I had the opportunity to talk to both of them on my.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'll definitely go back on your channel and make sure to watch those because the sport of boxing needs to be elevated for both male and female. I love it.
I agree. Actually, I want to get to one local kid here from here, Shakar Stevenson. What do you think of him as a boxer?
He's amazing. He's really developing his skill, and it's great to see how his improvements have been. I've seen a few of his throwbacks. Like his foot stance has gotten a lot better. His speed, his agility. I think he's in it to win it. And
also, did you look up to actually on this Friday I'm having Cynthia and Conti on the show. She's a boxer analyst, I think, and she's coming on the show on Friday. So
nice. Can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, have you looked up to her as one of the boxing analysts or? Yeah.
Well, I think she's funny as a color commentator, and it's great to see that energy as opposed to the here goes another jab, here goes the left hook. That's so bland and whack. Like you don't even feel engaged. Mm-hmm. I love when she does it. I think she's done a couple with Chris Algieri, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe I'm mixing the analysts up. But I've heard of her and I've seen her energy. She's great.
So what's your favorite sports movie?
My favorite sports movie is probably Rookie of the Year. Mm-hmm. I love it. It's funny. It's it shows how the Cubs have been struggling, and obviously they just recently won not too long ago. But it was such a good movie. It was really well done.
Yeah. My next question here. Obviously, you say you're a Giant fan. So, what's your most memorable game that you watch as a Giant fan, and out of their whole history?
Yeah, I would say definitely Super Bowl 42. It was great. Like I remember it so well. I was home. I wasn't even at someone's Super Bowl party. And I remember I was just doing my hair and I'm like, oh my God, we're really going to lose the Super Bowl to this damn team. Oh my God, what the hell's going on? And I remember I was like this and I said, and I almost, I caught myself in action. I almost burnt myself because I almost dropped the flat iron.
Oh my.
I had the TV behind me and the mirror in front of me. So I'm like this. Doing the most, but that's probably the most memorable because I was too young to remember their other. I wasn't even alive for either when they won in '86, I believe. Mm-hmm. I can't remember '90 because obviously I was a 2-year-old, but that wasn't very memorable, and it was my first experience of seeing like a really good. Oh, it was just so good.
Are you talking about the David Tyree catch?
Yeah. That's exactly it.
I had him on my show a couple weeks ago. So
yeah, that's amazing. That catch, I'll never forget it. Especially like, uh,
that I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, but I during that interview I gave him kudos for that catch. I gave him so much respect for that catch, and he knows that I'm a Cowboys fan. So so David Tyree, but what a
and
catch!
enemy lines.
Yeah, and that catch is I don't know where to put that in the history books, but I think I'll put that over that catch that Edelman made during the against the Falcons. That
Yeah.
year,
Mm-hmm.
I'll put David Tyree's catch over that in a heartbeat.
Same here. That catch is just so memorable because if you think about it, like it wasn't even supposed to happen. It goes against the laws of physics. Oh, and maybe I'm just sounding too much like a fan at this point, but it was just so good.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give these young sports reporters or anchors that are trying to be in the same business as us? What advice would you?
Of course. Well, one, my door is always open for sure. My DMs are open if anyone has any questions, but I'm not going to draw a blueprint because you got to also put in the work. So I have gotten people that have asked questions that have gotten me a little bit annoyed because everyone expects some sort of shortcut, and there aren't any shortcuts to life because if that were the case, everyone would be doing it. It's not as easy as it looks. Well, that's one. And two, always work hard. As cliche as it sounds and corny as it sounds, don't ever give up and think that no one's watching your work, no one's reading your work. That should be the last thing that you're worried about. What you should be worried about is when can you get your next guest? When can you get your next post out? Creative writing. What else can you write about randomly? Like, not to insult you, but is America's team still the Cowboys? Stuff like that people have written time and time again. And you still see a new perspective about it. And I would say my final advice would be don't be afraid to think outside the box. Like we're doing Zoom calls. What else can you do that's differently from us to make you stand out? Is it a podcast? Is it writing for somebody? Is it creating your own platform? Is it just talking about sports in a fun way where everyone else who doesn't watch sports or females or males that don't pay attention to sports at all, how can you get them engaged in a fun way? Yeah.
That's well said. And actually, for me, and I actually do a separate podcast with my friends. We have another podcast that we do on Zoom. We would like to have you on there as a group interview if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always down.
Yeah. So because this conversation was inspiring and an honor for you to come on, and so I would like to have you. I'll keep in touch with my friends, and once we get back going back with the Zoom interviews, then you'll be our first contact for sure.
Oh, for sure, Nathan. I'm definitely down because like I said earlier to start, if we don't support one another, who can we actually expect support from? We have to make sure to watch each other's stuff, like it, comment it, share it when available, because you never know who's out there watching. This could be something that's catered to somebody else that it's like, oh, wow, that's someone who got the start. Let me see how I can also work in it,
Yeah.
Posting it on Twitter and asking a question to the world. They could watch this and see how you're doing it and what I've been doing.
Yeah, so the brand I'm doing right now, what I'm doing right now with my own brand, this will go with our other podcast, what I'm doing with my other friends. So connecting. So, but I'll let you know when we start going back with our interviews as a group, so we can reach out to you first if you want to come on.
No, for sure. I'm always down, and especially in time of COVID, I think that this is still some sort of way to network and know more people in the field. Keep those contacts growing and coming in as well.
Yeah, and then before I get to the last few things here, you should check out this kid on Instagram. His name is Global Kid Media. He's 13 years old, and he's interviewed 1,000 people already. And he's trying to be the first sideline kid reporter in any sport. So what do you think about that idea? And you should check his page out. They do a great job.
Nice. Well, I do have to say, with the Sports Illustrated kids, I've seen them, the kid reporters that they call them. I've seen them at like whenever I've covered the drafts or any big events. I think that's really cute that they give them an opportunity and they're exposing them to stuff they didn't have access to. Like I tell my future brother-in-law, who's a 15 to be soon to be 16-year-old kid, you have a lot they have a lot more resources than we did. Like when I was looking for colleges, looking for inspiration, like there's so many more professions nowadays as well. Like social media wasn't a job 10 years ago, but now it is, you know. And maybe it was 10 years ago actually, but like more like 15, 20. It wasn't a job. But nowadays it's like you need to make sure you know TikTok, you need to make sure you know Snapchat, so you can try to get a good job. So I love that this youngster is on his way to interviewing 1,000 people plus at this point, and he's using his time to good. And these are the things that make you stand out as a candidate, because they see your determination, your discipline, and what you really want out of life is just nothing but success.
Yeah. So his Instagram handle is Global Kid Media. So
Global Kid
I'll send it
Media.
to you.
Okay.
I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Yeah, send it to me in DM, yeah, so I could see it.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
And the last few things here, obviously, this is a question I've been bringing up to all my guests about the late Kobe Bryant, because I'm trying to get everyone's perspective on him. And he was one of my role models growing up. I didn't really get to watch Jordan, but I watched Kobe, LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and other stars. Um,
Yeah.
and also, what are your thoughts on him? What did he mean to you? And especially his daughter Gianna, that's the most devastating thing. And also mama mentality.
Yeah, well, I remember when I woke up that afternoon, it was weird because I saw the notification and I said, "What?" I had to do a double take. It was really sad, and it's still sad, and my heart goes out to the other families as well that lost family members, like that the brothers and sisters that lost both parents, unfortunately, the pilot families and everybody else on that 9-person flight. It's just so sad to see because he was such a young man and he was so determined. And now, just kind of starting out his family life, paying attention more, maybe not paying attention more, but being more physically involved with the school pickups. It's just so heartbreaking to see. But I actually really wish I would have been able to cover his final game when he was at the Garden. But there was obviously an overcapacity of media, so I wasn't able to be a part of it. But I watched it on TV. But that's something I thought about, like, wow, I would have been able to be in his presence and been able to, even if ask him like half a question and get half a response back, considering how many people would have swarmed in just to get a feel and sense of being near Kobe Bryant. His daughter, it's going back to your WNBA point, like they were ready to elevate the brand so high. And I think that this is probably what the league needed. You know, the numbers are doing better, like we were saying earlier, but had she been involved, oh man, it would have been out of here. And you never know, he probably would have ended up coaching a team. Like imagine that. Like there's so many things that could have happened, but unfortunately, you know, I don't even want to say that things happen for a reason, because I feel like this sort of tragedy doesn't happen for a reason. This is just really sad overall. A family lost a father, a husband, a brother, a sibling, a son. So what he meant to the league is just, oh, he was just a badass. To go back to your question about mama mentality, like when he was briefly on The Last Dance, that I'm sure that I feel like they edited parts of it out just to not make it as sad, if you want me to be honest with you, because I think that his segment was supposed to be longer. That's what I feel like, because it was short-lived, and then similar, unfortunately, to how things are happening. Like he was supposed to be at home watching himself, so I think that they didn't want to make it too much about Kobe.
Yeah.
It was just so sad. But you really wonder, and you see like the tributes, like the SB's tribute the other day. I don't know if you had a chance to see it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It still doesn't feel real, and I don't think it's ever gonna feel real. It's similar to like the Selena, Tupac, or other rappers that have passed, other athletes, other actors that have passed. I think that even when we're well into our 50s and 60s, this is something that we're gonna be like, I can't believe that really happened. Like,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be that he was supposed to go out. Nobody, for that matter.
And he could have been a big part about with this whole situation with the social injustice. Kobe,
Yeah, I agree.
he could have been the leader in this whole thing, and he could have changed. He could have made a difference in this whole social injustice, in my opinion.
I very well believe he was going to be out there for sure. Like the other players are, like Steph Curry and his wife are out there.
Even Jackson, Cron Butler.
Exactly. And what's his face? Oh my God, I forgot his name. But The former Cavaliers player that
Oh,
I forget his name.
no, former Cavaliers player.
I forget his name. It's fine, but to go back to your point, like all these players were out there not even paying attention to being a celebrity status. Like they were out there for one purpose and one purpose only, and it was for the protest and make sure that people bring more awareness to these issues that you will really wonder if they're ever going to disappear from this country.
Are you talking about Brandon Haywood or Ryan Holland?
Brandon Hayward, yeah.
Oh, Brandon Haywood. Okay. So the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors?
And no, sorry, it was J.R. Smith. Sorry, I was like, wait, what's his name?
J.R. Smith, yeah, J.R. Smith.
I can't believe I forgot his name for 2 seconds.
He's speaking out too. He's doing a good job with that, and actually, I know the family too. So I'm friends.
Yeah, that's great.
I went to high school with his brother, Demetrius. So
really,
yeah.
So he's originally from Jersey. I didn't know that.
He's from Tom's River.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, good to know.
They have a store named Team Swish in near where we live, like 10 minutes away from my house. They have a store named Team Swish, I think.
So. Nice. I've been in Tom's River only once, and it's a pretty deep drive from the city. I think wow. 1.5 at the most.
Yeah. So yeah, but his brother went to the same high school, and hopefully he gets another chance in the league because he can still play. J.R. Smith, hopefully he does.
For sure.
Yeah, but the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, essential workers?
100%. I've noticed that the clapping hasn't been happening at 7 p.m. Yeah. It's kind of subsided a little bit, but I feel that the support is still very much there. It really broke my heart to see that they didn't have the perfect PPEs back in March and April to actually battle this thing. But my message for support will be, you guys are inspiring us. You're taking care of the sick, and good deeds do not go unnoticed. And I really hope that everyone who has been affected by this, that they seek therapy and talk to people about what they've seen. You can't keep this inside, because I have a few friends that are nurses and they're like, you have no idea what I've seen in these hospitals. And I'm just like, I'm giving them time to process, because that's something else that we need to realize, that you can't just wake up one night and you already processed it, you're on to the next. Like, no, these things take time, and I think there's a lot of trauma to deal with, but they're not alone. We're here to always talk, and you guys chose a difficult profession, but you're doing God's work. They're out there really being on the front lines. Like, they're our soldiers.
Yeah, well said. And I just want to say thank you, Erika, for coming on today on the Sports Podcast, the NR,
thank you.
And the NR Hour edition. And like I said before, we would like to have you on the other podcast when we start that back up. So we'll let you know about that. And man, just keep up the great work. You're such an inspiration to everyone. And
thank you so much. Sometimes you don't really think about what you're doing, and I think about what a friend of mine told me years ago. He said, don't focus on what you haven't accomplished, focus on what you have. So now during COVID, I've really been thinking about it, and I said, wow, I didn't realize I did this much. And when people say that I'm inspiring them, I said, wow, I guess I really am on the low. I didn't really think about it like that, but thank you so much for highlighting my work and for the kind words, because sometimes you don't really think that you're inspiring anybody.
No, you're doing a great job, and I've seen your Instagram page, and it's full of content that I love, and just keep up the great work. And I want to come on your too. So
you already know you're gonna be on there. That's for sure. You got to plug it in and tell people where they can find you, all that good stuff, because like I said, like, I'm all for support 1,000% of the time, because man, that's how I've been able to get here. It's creating a good following, getting the right contacts from Twitter, Instagram, and then on shows like yours. Like, this is what it's about. Mm-hmm. Like, you were on that show too. Oh yeah, I watched the show. Oh yeah, you were on her show, vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just keep up the great work, and you and your family stay safe. And I'll be posting this on all social media formats. So
sounds good. I can't wait to see it, and I can't wait to see the rest of your lineup, because I saw your schedule. I was like, oh, he's working.
I got the one right after you. I got Mark Gunnels. He's a great.
I worked with him briefly at BSO, and he's He's so enthusiastic. You're gonna love him. He's very much all about an NBA, and he has such a good attitude on him.
Yeah, I'm gonna mention you that I interviewed you before him, so I'm gonna mention that to him.
Yeah, make sure. Please tell him I said hello. I hope he's staying safe out there in Cali because things are looking crazy with these COVID numbers. Stay inside. Wash your hands, guys. Put on your mask. It takes 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like 10 because you got a ladder, but you know what I mean.
All right. Yeah. So thank you. This has been a pleasure, and thank you.
Same. Thanks, you, Nathan. I appreciate you.
Anytime. Yeah. All right.
All right. Bye.